guys are really close to the stage. You guys okay with that? Being this close? See, they told me that if I got out of my ivory tower, I wouldn't have to be this close to people. Nah, it's okay, don't worry about it. I hear there are some people from England around here?
Hey.
Aw, that's okay. No, really, it's okay. My boyfriend is not real, I made that up. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not really one to judge. I'm not from around here, and since I'm doing a PhD, that kind of means I'm an immigrant living on your tax money. But I'm American, so your precious Brexit isn't getting rid of me. The DUP might, but for a very different reason. Let me also start off by apologizing for all the chalk on my waistcoat. I was rolling around in some math. Oh, I'm sorry. Maths. I've gotten used to it. I've been an immigrant for quite some time. I did my undergraduate research in Germany. I was doing astrophysics. However, I know there's an astrophysicist out there. However, I'm going to disappoint you. From day one, I was being courted by both geologists and oceanographers. Really? Well, when it came time to do a master's, I had to pick one of them. And seeing as I get ridiculously seasick, I think you know what's coming. I picked geology, because of course I did. The land is stable, it doesn't move, and the soil doesn't have sharks. It has some sharks, but they're dead. Some are alive, but they're dying. Okay, now I'm doing my PhD, and that's in oceanography. It's something I call delayed irony. Specifically, I'm working on the Arctic Ocean. And now that I've got the icebreakers out of the way... See, I didn't care if you laughed at that one, because I laughed at that one. And when you're doing a PhD, as long as you can make yourself laugh, you really got something out of it. So what specifically am I doing? Well, I'm looking at these creatures called phytoplankton. Think of them like really tiny, microscopic, usually single-celled plants that live in the ocean. They are essential for the marine ecosystem. They produce 80% of the oxygen that we breathe, and they're really frustrating. I'm specifically looking at what's going to happen as the ice in the Arctic retreats, because it is melting. Yes, I am one of those stooges paid by China billions of pounds to lie about global warming. But what I am specifically trying to do is see, well, with this increase of light that's going to be available with the retreating ice, how are they going to respond? They are essential for everything. They are the bottom of the food chain. This is going to be really important. And photosynthesis isn't really all that straightforward. If you have too much of an efficiency, then if you give it too much light, it overreacts and it burns up, like Scotland. So you would expect that in the summer, phytoplankton don't want to be overly efficient. And that in the winter, they would want to be really efficient because days are shorter, ice covers everything, and they need to get every last photon that they can get, right? So, before I started my PhD, many intrepid researchers collected lots of data, and let me just say, expectations are stupid. It came out completely backwards. It was a reverse. And my professor shows me this data, leans back and says, "What up with that? That's weird, right? Figure that out." The first step of that was something called a literature review, which I had to look at what previous researchers had established about photosynthesis in phytoplankton. What that essentially boiled down to was parameterizing, so defining certain attributes and traits of phytoplankton and getting numerical values for them. And I realized pretty quickly I was collecting stats, but not in the statistics way, in the Pokemon kind of way. So I will now be introducing a new trading card game called Phytoplankton. It'll be sold next to the video game that I invented when I was doing entomology, Ants Revolution. In order to really grapple with this confusing data, I needed to understand the biochemistry. So what does the photosynthesis? It's a thing called the photosynthetic unit. Well, that makes sense, right? Problem is, I didn't actually know what that was, my background being in physics. So I got out the textbook and said, what are the chemicals that make up the photosynthetic unit? All the literature talks about the importance of the size of this molecular cluster. So what is it? Textbook. The photosynthetic unit is like a metaphor, describing many different myriad processes. Oh, because of course it is. Because nothing means anything, and all things are imaginary. Life is really complicated. It's full of so many different processes, and when you get into it, it is beautiful, it is an elegant dance, and it is a chemical clusterfuck. And when you scratch the surface of any cell, what you see is a howling nightmare void of thousands of chemicals, all at war with each other for every scrap of energy they can get in a 4 billion year race towards equilibrium. And I have to explain it in a couple of pages. I can do that. Luckily, though, there are ways of addressing this. There are patterns. There are processes that pop up time and time again across many different fields that we can use to summarize and describe these myriad processes. For example, trade-offs. Maybe being really, really efficient is good, but maybe being really, really efficient is costly. But think of it like this. The Tories. Now, they could say no to an alliance with a bunch of homophobic, misogynist bigots, but there's a trade-off. They'd have to give a shit. In the end, this is more or less what my PhD is all about. Because I'm not really a biologist, I'm not really an oceanographer, I'm a mathematical modeler. People give me data, and it can seem insane, and then I have to construct simple equations to describe it. Construct models, construct theories. That's the principle of modeling. We take the insanity, and we make some semblance of sense. I like to think that we can do that with just about anything in the world, at least with enough time. Except for polling data, this country's insane, you're all screwed. Good night.